I'm Dr. Catherine Alfano, the Vice President for Cancer Care Management and Research at Northwell Health, and I am so happy to be part of this event today. Transforming our care in ways that help our patients thrive or have the best long-term health and well-being they can is literally my job description. And thriving is relevant whether you're living with cancer or living cancer-free. The goal is living your best life for as long as you can. I'm thrilled that we have Carol Silva, Emmy award-winning veteran News 12 anchor here to talk with us today. Carol, thank you for being here. Let's launch right in. Tell us about your experience with cancer.
Thank you so much. I'm thriving. I'll start with that. And I'm thriving because of Northwell. I'm going to take you back to June of 2019. I made an incredibly radical decision. I was going to retire after 44 years in radio and television news. And I announced it in June. In July, I was invited to host what would be one of the pinnacles of my career, an international women's conference. It was happening September 16th. I had one goal: don't cough. And then my secondary goal was to get the information out there and bring these women together. It was a chronic cough that I had had on and off for years, but really for the last year, and we couldn't seem to get a handle on it. Ultimately, I did the conference. I did not cough for the hour and a half that I led that seminar. I was back on the air at News 12 Long Island in the morning 2 days later, and coughs were exploding out of my words. And I went to see my pulmonologist that day. He did an x-ray, and I found out that I had a tumor the size of a golf ball in my lung. And eventually, as I had other tests, I had that surgery, I had biopsies, I found out that I had stage 4 cancer, and it had moved from the tumor here to 12 tumors in my brain. I had the most incredible, just the most incredible list of doctors who I was able to see. And eventually I met my oncologist. She is the conductor of my orchestra, of all the other doctors, of all the tests, of everything that's happened since then. And other doctors in my circle of care describe her as the most brilliant doctor that they've ever met. Her name is Dr. Naga Sitharamu, and she is amazing. I met with her PA, my husband, and my best friend after I had had a bunch of tests. And Dr. Sitharamu said to me, "Well, you have stage 4 cancer." And the first words that came out of my mouth were, "Thank you, God, for my healing." I wasn't looking for them. I wasn't looking for anything special to say. Those words poured out of me. And Kira Barnaby, Dr. Sitharamu's PA, asked me later, "Where did that come from?" And it came from the faith that was instilled in me at home when I was a child, the optimism that I saw in my home when I was a child.
Thank you for sharing that story. We know from the research that's been done with cancer survivors that when you're dealing with cancer, as you said, Carol, there are some bad days. There are also some good days. And in fact, there are also some bright spots. Many people actually report that their life has changed by cancer in some really positive ways, like reprioritizing their time for friends and family, or finally making a commitment to eating healthy and being active and prioritizing their health for the first time. These things can really contribute to thriving. So Carol, I'm wondering, help us understand what helps you thrive during your journey.
I guess those things were always a part of my life anyway. I've been a vegetarian for 40 years. I'm a walker. I used to be a swimmer. So those things, I think letting people in to surround me, asking for help when I needed it, and also putting up boundaries when I needed to be alone or I needed to handle something myself. Those are some of the things that help me thrive. One of the really important things to me, and it's something that I learned at home, we always have the choice. We don't have a choice in what's going to happen to us in life so often, but we always have a choice of how we react to it. And what do we repeat to ourselves over and over again? And I had the choice of saying, "I have cancer. I have stage 4 cancer. That's so scary. That's so terrible." That wouldn't have done me any good. It's not my nature, but it wouldn't have done me any good. And I think an important part of my thriving was, this is just a bump in the road. I mean, these are the things that I was saying to myself, and people have been saying to me, I am so sorry for you. And I've said, this has been one of the most incredible spiritual experiences of my life. If you asked me, did I want to trade this experience back in? I'd have to say no. But I think that really one of the most important things is, what are we repeating to ourselves? One of my pieces of advice for other people with cancer is, write down how you're feeling. I mean, we have every right to be terrified, angry, think that it's unfair. Write it all down, get it out, but also write down our successes. I walked today. In fact, I walked so much during my treatment. My little 12-pound dog was exhausted. She was begging me, no more walking, please. It was the year of COVID. So I walked with friends. I walked in the planting fields in Oyster Bay. I walked, in a safe way, but I got out there. I got around other people in a safe way and in a positive way. And I'd say, hey, I don't want to talk about that. That's such a small part of my life and such a small part of my story. And we can choose whether to magnify that or whether to try to right size it. And I think that was a big help to me too. That's helped me thrive.
So that's fantastic. It sounds like you've really written this into the narrative of your life. You've really threaded it in and threaded it through. You got into some of this, but what other tips do you want to share with anyone who's coping with cancer or living with the after effects of cancer right now?
I have to say that I love the fact that my doctors, and even Chung Lee, who's the head of pharmacy, everybody's treated me like a person. At one point, I had 3 hours of gamma knife, not surgery. I called it laser tag that Dr. Goenka did to my brain. And much of it was back here. And I lost a fair amount of my hair. And anybody could say to me, don't worry, you look beautiful. It would be okay. No, it wasn't okay for me. And so don't tell, this would be for caregivers. Don't tell us how to feel. Listen to how we feel. I think a great question for a caregiver is to say, how do you want to be loved today? What can I do to help you? Instead of you, the caregivers, deciding you have to eat more, you should eat this, you shouldn't eat that. By the way, I think ice cream kind of helps to cure everything. That's just, I'm not a doctor, I'm just Dr. Mom. I think ice cream is awesome. So no matter what anybody says, just once in a while, you slip that in there. Do those things that make you happy, but don't be afraid to express yourself as a cancer patient. When I went to my doctors, and the doctors are so busy, when I went to my doctors, I made sure that I had my list of questions there. And even though the doctors are busy and I felt like they were giving me time, but if I thought they'd given me enough time, but more questions were created in my brain, you have a right to ask those questions. Be efficient about them, write them down. It's also a good idea to bring somebody with you. I brought my husband and I brought my best friend in the beginning of my diagnosis when I could, before COVID. And there was one day, my husband was concerned. He wants me to live forever. And he was starting to ask questions in the midst of my questions because he was so concerned. And I finally had to set a boundary there and say, please bring a pen and paper and write down everything you're concerned about. But I have to go with the flow so that this information can become a part of me. I need to ask my questions first. I really appreciate being backed up, but please give me the opportunity to do what I have to do first. I'm not a big one on reading everything on the internet because I think that you can take in too much negative information, but there are some support groups, and go to your doctors and say, I need support. I can't keep talking to my friends, my husband, my family about it. Who would you recommend? Ask for help, get the help you need, set the boundaries, and, learn to stand up for yourself a bit. It's very healthy. I
One
have
of
one piece of information, if I could, for visitors.
Please.
You're a visitor. It's the same as if somebody had a baby. Don't just assume that you can pop into a home, because a cancer patient may have had a procedure, may have had a treatment. We can be tired. We don't have our makeup and our hair the way that we want to be for the world. So just dropping in is not necessarily a great idea. And if you come, you don't come so that the patient has to get up and offer you something to drink or something to eat or get you a plate. You come, if anything, to serve. But I would advise that you please call ahead and check ahead and make sure it's okay, even though you have the best of intentions.
Yeah, that's so important. I've heard so many of our cancer survivors talking about that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Carol, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your experiences and your helpful advice. I am sure that your words have been helpful for the other survivors who have joined us today. One of the main takeaways that I want to convey to everyone who participates in our event is that you are not going through your cancer journey alone. You have a huge community around you who understands what you're going through. We have 17 million cancer survivors living in the United States today. We also have a team of specially trained clinicians and program leaders across Northwell Health who are here to help you every step of the way, caring for you through cancer and helping you thrive for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless. Be healthy, everybody.